And then I just went cold turkey. I literally went May 1st of 2015 was the time when I said, all right, instead of doing this on the side, I'm doing this full time. And
Yep.
I made that leap. And I had just bought a house. So I
Mhm.
had a new mortgage, right? Again,
Yep.
these medical bills come in. So it was stressful. I would never, ever recommend to anyone to do that.
This is our second episode from our CEO series where I interview CEOs from around Central Florida area. I sat down with Rey Ortega from Grata Software, and he shared how he took his company from just him as a freelancer to over $1 million in sales. And we also talk about some new ideas he has for expansion. This is part one of this interview. If you want to stick around for part two, we go into a whole in-depth conversation about AI. Okay, welcome back to Exploring Growth. Today we have an interesting story of a local Central Florida business that has recently expanded. And I get to chat with Rey Ortega, founder of Grata Software. Welcome, Rey.
Hey, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think I saw a recent LinkedIn post that you had on LinkedIn about Grata Software expanding, and it just looked like the first perfect time for me to reach out, connect, explore what you're up to. And we were having a great kind of robust conversation about AI right before this, so I want to get back into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this whole series about interviewing founders and CEOs around Orlando and just getting to know what's going on. Like, what are these companies that are driving this local economy? What are they up to? How are they growing? What hurdles have they had to overcome? And so let's just start with Grata. I want to get to the things you're doing today, of course, but
Yeah.
um, what is Grata Software? What makes it unique in the market? Who do you serve? What do you do? I want to know everything.
Okay. Well, Grata Software simply was just Grata Software. When I started it, it was more of like I was having issues at a job. I was working at a job, and they were laying off a bunch of people who were really, really smart people who I thought
Mm-hmm.
were probably one of the best talents that we had. And every time there's a photographer that used to come in my office, he'd say, "Hey, so and so's persona non grata. They just got released from the company." And
Mm.
one day I said, "Man, I'm going to come up with a company called Grata." Where
Yeah.
basically we like accept everyone as long as we don't care if they have quirks, if they don't meet like
Yeah.
certain mold or whatever in the upper echelon, whatever, like they just have talent. We just want talent. So that's kind of where the name Grata came from. And when I started, it was basically just me freelancing at first. I'm a software engineer by trade, been one for over 25 years. I've built hundreds of products in all different industries. And so I started off as a freelancer, and then obviously it started to grow. So I had to start hiring people, and that's kind of how it became a company. It kind of organically became a company that way. We're an engineering first company, focused on engineering just as much as we do on like sales and everything else. One
Mm-hmm.
of the things I tell people is that most companies that do what we do, they have a sales team that's out there selling engineering. We're an
Yeah.
engineering team out there selling because we have projects that we got to engineer, right?
That's right. That's right.
And that's kind of how we focus everything. So we're a very boutique technology consulting company. We work specifically with businesses that are trying to emerge into this larger, mid-sized, large-sized company, enterprise company.
Mm-hmm.
So they need the help in figuring out the technology they need in order to scale and grow. So
Okay.
we come in, we do a full assessment of those companies. We advise them on anything that we see that could be a benefit to increasing their productivity through technology. And
Mm-hmm.
then we architect them, and then sometimes we'll implement the solutions. Sometimes they'll have their own teams implement them, and we'll just monitor and manage them. But that's kind of how we work, and it's very hands-on. We work face-to-face with the customers. We only take about 5 or 6 clients a year. This year, we've expanded to try to take on a little bit more, but that's usually our numbers, 5 to 6, because we're really hands-on. We're working like a
Yeah.
partner side by side with these people.
Okay. So that's interesting. So to get a little more specific, are you building software that I don't know, lives on their servers? Are you building web apps, mobile apps? What specifically are you doing?
So
And
we're
for
we're
whom?
agnostic. It's a good question because we're absolutely agnostic.
Okay.
We're a solutions provider. So
Okay.
what happens is let me give you an example. We had a client that came up to us that years ago that they were doing claims for FEMA. When there's a natural disaster, FEMA would send them these insurance claims, and then they would have their adjusters go out and do the claims.
Okay.
When they came to us, they already had a platform in place. However, it was a lot of manual processes throughout that platform. We came in and we redesigned that whole platform to be a lot more automated that ties directly in with FEMA.
Mm-hmm.
Also has a mobile app that allows the adjusters to do all the work on mobile apps, take photos. It puts that all into the same system. And then essentially they can, using a document management system, we can send all these documents back up to FEMA for approval. If they get rejected, we have a whole process for that. and everything. And so when we built out this whole platform, originally it was just to make their company operate a lot more efficiently. Well, their company did 10 times better than everybody around them. And
Yeah.
now FEMA is looking at this platform as being the de facto standard for everybody else who's in the industry. So that's just one small solution for one company. And
Right.
we've worked with dozens of companies over 10 years. We've
Yeah.
worked, I'd say the number's over 60 easily. So,
Yeah. So various bespoke solutions.
yes.
I
Yep,
love it.
specific to the company and their industry. So the great thing about it for us, especially me being a business guy, as we talked about earlier, like we love business, right? We love entrepreneurship and business.
Yeah.
Is I get to learn all these different industries, and I get to learn about all these different businesses and how they make their money and how they do their business. So
Yeah. That's the fun part.
that is the fun part.
So along this path of growth, you went from freelancer to more work in your handle. So you hire a team and you got a legitimate company going.
Mhm.
What was the pivotal point of growth for Grata? I mean, was there an inflection point that you can point back to and say, yeah, that's where we took off?
Absolutely. The pivotal point was I had to step back from engineering. So as a
Okay.
software engineer, and a lot of engineers, you talk to a lot of engineer entrepreneurs out there, they'll
Yeah.
tell you the same thing. Like it's really hard to step back,
Yeah.
especially because when you love getting your hands dirty, you love doing the coding or you love doing whatever it is.
Yeah.
So the pivotal point was me having to step back, trust the team, hire a team, and trust them that they, they always tell you hire people that are smarter than you.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true. Like
Mm-hmm.
I hired people that were smarter than me, that I would have to ask them for advice at this point, right?
Yeah.
And they do a phenomenal job, and it basically was that pivotal point. If it wasn't for that, I think we would still be stagnant. But because of them, that's how we were able to grow.
So then what part of that it was natural for you and not natural? Because I've seen a lot of leaders that are in a CEO role or about to be, depending on how they get there. And there's a lot of things that they have as a natural strength, but then they could be a bottleneck in other ways. So
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned, kind of alluded to it being an engineer. You could stay an engineer and then things wouldn't grow. But what are some of the other things you had to staff around you if you were to pull yourself out? How did you fix that problem?
Well, thankfully, my background in engineering is self-taught. My actual degree in training is in business management and administration.
Okay.
So it was kind of one of those things like, yes, I love the engineering and I wanted to stay there and keep
Mm-hmm.
doing that. But because I did come from a business background and have a business degree and all that kind of stuff from UCF, actually, University of Central Florida,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I actually, use this tools and things that I learned there to kind of go, okay, Ray, now you got to think like a businessman, like a
Mm-hmm.
CEO. You can't think like an engineer now. You need to step back. You need to bring in the right people. You need to bring in the right systems
Mm-hmm.
and start doing that. And that's kind of how that transition happened. It wasn't as hard as people may think it was. It
Okay.
wasn't. It was when I finally realized I didn't have to code. That was probably the only time I kind of, was like, oh, like I can't code anymore. Like this is like, but thankfully for me, the people ask me what's one of my hobbies, and one of my hobbies is coding.
Yeah.
Just to tell you a quick story, 2 weeks ago, I do work at a nonprofit. I'm a coach. I'm a basketball coach at a travel basketball organization.
Okay.
Totally do it voluntary, nonprofit. And this year they were doing tryouts, and one of the secretaries asked me like, "Hey, is there a system out there that can, manage our player registration and all that
Hmm.
stuff?" And I was like, "Ooh, fun code project,"
Yeah.
And so I did it for fun, and I knocked out an application in like 14 hours, and lo and behold, that application now may become a product because it's being requested by other
That's
programs
awesome.
around the country. So, but anyways, that's kind of how it was. It's like
Yeah.
I do coding for fun. I'm not coding anymore, so I didn't really hurt that much because I still do it for fun. If that makes sense.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's awesome. That's the best way.
Yeah.
So during that time when you pivoted, where it was sort of pivotal time,
Yeah.
how did that work for growth inside the company? Did it come on the back of a big new contract that gave you the cash to hire the team, or was it a little bit of more of a risk, or did you have multiple things that happened at one
Yeah.
time?
So I can tell you, so it was a risk. We had to go out and get funding, obviously, to hire the amount of people
Okay.
because we wanted to make sure we'd be able to scale.
Yeah.
So we went out, we got some funding, and we were able to add to the team. We started putting a process in place, hired a sales team, we started doing marketing, all this stuff. We hadn't marketed in 9 years, by the way. We grew the company with no marketing. The company
Wow.
grew to $1 million business simply by just referrals and
Yeah.
just doing good work for people.
Yeah. That's
Right.
awesome.
But then we decided, we want to scale from there. So yeah, so it required us to get funding. It required us to start putting systems in place. And we did run through our struggles, because when you're stepping out from, you're the guy doing everything at first, and
Yeah.
everything, you're like optimizing how everything works, and then you start bringing people, you realize people that come in don't necessarily have the same drive and care that
Mm-hmm.
you do for your own business and your customers and everything. So that's probably been the biggest struggle, is like trying to find people that fit the
Yeah.
same personality that I have.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm driven. I'm literally like, you'll find me here in the office at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
still today. And I'm not even coding or doing anything. Like, that's
Yeah.
just me doing business strategy.
You're
You
just
know what
there
I mean?
sleeping because
I'm
that's what you do
Yeah,
at 2
I'm
in the
living
morning,
here.
right?
Yeah, every day I'm living here. But you want to find people that share that same kind of passion. It's really
Yeah.
difficult, but it's possible. You
Yeah.
get a few.
Yeah. How has that road been for you, finding high quality people, people that fit the culture?
It's been tough. We've gone through a significant amount of people.
Mhm.
It's you ever hear the term hire fast, fire fast? Have
Yes.
you ever heard that? So
Yes.
it's hard for me to do that,
Yeah.
because I'm one of those. I think about people personalities. I think about people's families.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
care about my employees' families. I had an employee who wasn't performing for a while, but because she had medical issues, I didn't want her to feel like to add to the burden. You know what I
Sure.
mean? That she was already dealing with. So I have a hard time with the fire fast part.
Hmm.
But I've been working on it, and that's been probably my biggest struggle. I think I mentioned it in a TikTok. I said that's my biggest weakness. My biggest weakness is like the fact that I'm a people person, and I
Yeah.
care about people personalities. I care about people's families,
Yeah.
and I always I try to give people a chance, and give them more chances than probably I should, before I make the decision if it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
But we've been able to survive. We've been able to thrive, and the best part about it is, like, right now I have a team that's optimal. And
So
it's like a bunch of me's out there right now.
sure. Yeah.
So
So I don't know, weirdly, this in my mind where it makes me go is retention of clients, because I think a person like yourself is probably suited for, high retention because you care about people, you care about the relationship, the connection. Is that been true in your business? And how much of your business has
absolutely.
been repeat?
Absolutely. We've had clients that have been with us since, so we've been in business for 10 years. This is our 10th year. We have a client that's been with us for 8. We have another client that's been with us for 7. We have a new client, or a client that's considered new.
Hmm.
We started working with them in August of 2023. And we're still talking, and we're still working, and we're still doing work for them. And we already have, multiple phases in
Yeah,
the future that we're still going to be doing stuff for them.
that's amazing. I,
So
I love the retention piece of things. I think that more businesses should be focused on that part of it, because it takes so much to land a new client. Then
yeah.
you let that all that work go out the back end. And again, back to the point of finding good quality people to help you with that retention, that can be a struggle.
Yeah, we have a client of ours that every Christmas they invite us to their Christmas party. So every
That's awesome.
Christmas we're hanging out with the whole team, and it's like we're part of the team.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
fact,
that's the goal.
it's awesome, and the thing is, it just makes for, and this is one of our clients that now is potentially going to get acquired by a private equity firm. So,
Yeah,
and this has
awesome.
happened not just once. There's 4 other clients of ours that have been able to exit after selling to a larger firm.
Right.
And because that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
The way I explain to people is, like, when I see small businesses, I see families.
Yes.
So my goal is to help that CEO or that owner develop a company, a product, or a service, or whatever they're doing, so that they can be successful, so they can support their families today and for future generations. That's always
Mhm.
the goal, and that's kind of what I focus on.
Yeah, for B2B businesses, you're selling from business to business. It's all relationship game, and I've always had this sort of chart that it's like you want to go from stranger to best friends, and
Absolutely.
not in literal terms, but essentially that's the idea. And you being at your client's Christmas party is a good example of that. Being
Absolutely.
invited into their house and being celebrating the things that they celebrate. If you could have enough of those, then that's a very sustainable, repeatable,
Yeah.
low stress, high reward business. That
Yeah.
if other people that are in a service based business that are selling to other businesses, that's the goal.
Yeah, that should be the goal. I mean, the a good story that I'll tell you is, like, so during the pandemic, one of our clients is in hospitality, right? Everything
Hmm.
shut down during the pandemic, right?
Yep.
They have a whole cloud solution that we're managing, right?
Hmm.
So I knew that they were shut down. I knew they weren't going to get any money, and I called them up and I said, "Hey, don't worry, I got your cloud services until everything picks back up."
Yeah.
Like, I'll take care of it myself. I didn't at that time. I had a smaller team, and my team was like, you know, we couldn't work, right? Because we
Yeah.
were shut out of our office.
Yeah.
So I just told my team, hey, just consider this like a not a furlough, but consider it like a vacation,
Hmm.
right? Until we get back to going. I said, but I'll take care of the clients and manage all of their AWS until we get back,
That's amazing.
And again, that's the client that's been with us for like 7-8 years. So it's
That's
like,
awesome.
but that's the kind of relationship we like to have, and we don't always have it. So, I don't want to, paint this picture of it's all sunshine and rainbows. Like, we do have people that take advantage of the amount of love and care we give to our client.
Right.
And we try to take advantage of it. And then we have to, and then we feel those
It's
just,
got to be a healthy relationship both
yeah,
ways. Yeah.
exactly. Yep.
Well, getting back to this LinkedIn post I saw of yours where you're saying
Yeah.
that you're expanding, I'm excited to talk to you about what that expansion means. I mean, I really don't have any other questions for you
Yeah.
like prepared
Yeah.
other than getting us to this place to say, okay, let's talk about what does Grata Software look like in the future. Let's talk about the ins and outs of that. And I want to get back to the AI conversation we're having too, because that was very interesting.
Yeah. Well, the expansion part. So the post that you saw was basically we have been involved in several companies. Some of them we have equity in. Some of them we've built.
Mm-hmm.
So we built two other brands, Who You Media and LearnToBuildABusiness.com.
Okay.
So Who You Media is just the media brand. We talked about it earlier. You talked about how you
That's
guys do
right.
video and stuff like that. That's kind of what the Who You Media is. We've been doing video for years. I worked in a TV studio for 6 years, so I have a passion for TV and video and all that kind of
That's
stuff.
awesome. Yeah.
So in fact, if I actually pan this camera around, you would see like all my high end cameras, lighting
Studio.
equipment, all that
Yeah.
stuff. And it's because it's just something that I'm passionate about. It wasn't to build a company necessarily, but it was just we created the brand so that when we wanted to do something like along the lines of that, we could
Yeah.
put it under a brand name,
Yep.
right? We didn't want to dilute Grata because Grata is specifically technology.
Mm-hmm.
But then on top of that, the Learn to Build a Business was actually brought up because of Grata. So in fact, if you look at all of our Learn to Build a Business thing, it always says powered by Grata, because the reality is
Mm-hmm.
we during the pandemic, we did a bunch of presentations. We did a bunch of virtual conferences. We were invited to do a bunch of virtual conferences for small businesses. And every small business we talked to, they ate up everything we had to say. They were like, they loved
Mm-hmm.
all the information we were providing about how to use technology in their business, how to expand their business with technology. We were giving very detailed. This wasn't like a normal webinar where it's just like bland information, get with us later.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in webinars. So I tend to love to teach. So I
Yeah.
was teaching in these webinars. And what happened was they're like, Ray, we would love to hire you. We can't afford you, but if you had a course or a membership site or
Yeah.
something for like 20, 30, 40, $50 a month, or even like a one-time fee,
Mm-hmm.
like we'll sign up for it.
Yeah.
However, at the time I was like, okay, well, we're in the pandemic. I don't have the resources to kind of just expand out and do anything.
Yeah.
So I had to wait. And so I waited till, like I said, we became $1 million business just recently, last year. And I was like, okay, now we have the resources, the funds and everything that we can add this component. So we decided, well, we don't want to dilute the Grata brand. Grata
Mhm.
brand is, we're a little bit more of a boutique shop, like I said.
Sure.
So what we said is we're like, okay, well, why don't we create a whole nother brand for this? So we created LearnToBuildABusiness.com. And that's where, if you want to learn how to transition from working a job to becoming an entrepreneur, you want to learn how to find the right product or service that you want to, sell, find the
Mhm.
target customers that you want, the audience that you want to serve. And
Yep.
then also you want to determine how to sell to those customers, what kind of messaging that you need, marketing, then that's what that's for. It's a program that we built. It's a membership site that allows people to learn all of this, the foundations of business. Because
Okay.
one of the biggest issues working in the tech industry that I see today is everyone's focused on these tech startups, these unicorns.
Mhm.
So they think it's like, okay, I start a business, I go get funding, and then I build this unicorn. You have to be able to run the business.
That's right.
There's a fundamental way of running a business.
Yes.
Like, cash flow, right? Managing employees, all these like
Mhm.
resources in general, how to
Mhm.
get resources, how to use your resources, how to, manage clients'
That's right.
expectations, how to do customer service. There's all these aspects to running a business that in the tech world, a lot of people don't talk about
Mhm.
until you hear it on the news that so-and-so has to shut down because they've already burned through their $10 million of investment, right?
Right.
And it's because they're not running a business fundamentally. So what we want to do is we want to show people who are going into the world of entrepreneurship, this is how you run a business fundamentally. Like, this is how you
Gotcha.
manage your cash flow. This is how you manage your clients. This is how you do sales. Like everyone thinks you need to have the click funnels and all these other
Yeah.
tools. I'm like, dude, my whole Grata business was, I said, I'm going to provide this service. I pick up the phone, I start calling a bunch of people that potentially could use my service.
Yeah.
And then a few of them bit on it, and those
And
became
you're
my
off to
first
the
customers.
races. Yeah.
And then the money I earned from that, I reinvested back into the business to continue growing it. I didn't take investment until recently. I
Yeah.
didn't take money till like a year ago. A year
Yeah.
ago was the first time we ever got funds.
This
So
is really good. I like what you're talking about. I think it has such a need in the market to get back to the fundamentals. I mean, I can't tell you how many stories I've heard and seen of entrepreneurs, small business owners, even bigger business owners that they go awry. There's so much misinformation out there.
Mhm.
And I would say maybe not even misinformation. There's so much information that
Yeah,
it can be miscommunicated in terms of the context of how that information can be most valuable. And
absolutely.
someone that is someone that needs ClickFunnels to harp on that for a minute
Yeah.
may not be the person who's running a software company,
Hmm.
right? There may
Yeah.
be a solution for it out there, but it may not be for someone who wants to go from being a software engineer to running their own shop.
Yep.
There's so many different flavors of how businesses that can be started and run,
Yeah.
and there's new ones created every day,
Yep.
that there is not a one size fits all. And so when you get on TikTok and you get on Instagram and you get on YouTube and you don't know what you don't know, you
Yeah.
take it all in and think, oh man, they were very compelling in talking about this one thing. I guess that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
And you don't ever really make any progress. So I think it's great to have fundamentals 101 type of thing. It sounds like you're focused on that. Are you focused on specifically engineers that have jobs that want to be entrepreneurs, or just kind of people who have jobs in general
Yeah.
and want to be entrepreneurs?
Working professionals. So basically,
Gotcha.
anybody who's working a professional job right now
Mhm.
that wants to, that's tired of the 9 to 5, tired of the rat race.
Yep.
They're in. They could even be an executive, because executive. A lot of people think executives are like living large and having. Okay,
Yeah.
no, they have the most stress, the most things to deal with, and sometimes
Yes.
they have least time with their family and
Yes.
all that stuff. So that's why. So, but the problem is that when you're making 6 figures a year as an executive, it's really hard to just jump over to just being your own boss.
It's super hard.
So,
Yeah.
and I was there. I
There's a
was a
standard of
soft.
living there. There's
Yeah.
there's a mortgage that's got to be repaid. I was talking to a buddy of mine earlier today about this same thing where, you see people online, especially young people, they're the easiest to harp on, is that
Yeah.
they live at home, they have no responsibilities, they have nothing to lose. They can throw darts at a wall and have success. And it's great because it's all basically all profit, but when you
Exactly.
actually start building a company like what you're talking about, it
Hmm.
gets a little bit more complicated and then
Yeah.
you have a company where you have people that you have to support and you have a family at home with a mortgage and all the things. It just becomes much more complicated than it seems on TikTok.
Absolutely. Listen, there's a thing called the IRS.
Yes,
Every year they come to you. They want money,
they're there.
and you got to be able to put money aside to pay the IRS. Because if
That's
you
right.
don't, they will come for you.
That's right.
And that's the funny thing is, I love. I made this joke the other day. I said all these TikTokers and all stuff talk about how they make millions of dollars sitting at home and just a few hours a day.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I was the IRS right now, I'd be like, all right, let's give this guy a call.
Yep.
I'm like, because chances are these people aren't even managing their money
Yeah.
correctly. Because as a business, depending on the type of business you are, like if you're a corporation, every quarter you have to give money to the government. You have to
Yep.
do meetings. You have to do if
Yep.
you're an LLC, then you have your own responsibility. Like there's all
Mhm.
these structures that
And
require
those are
business,
the simple things.
and those are the simple things, the absolute simple things.
Yeah.
You hire someone. So I had this conversation with someone the other day, and they're like, oh man, why don't you pay? You should be paying more for engineers. So I said, if for your salary, I have to pay another 11% on top of that for just
Yep.
employment taxes and then the unemployment taxes.
Mhm.
I'm like, so I have to pay unemployment whether you're going to stay with me or not.
That's right.
I still have to pay that. The government requires me to
Yeah.
pay that no matter what. So
Yeah.
it says it's 11% on top of your salary.
It's
So that's
math,
what I have to pay.
right?
And I
But
don't even have to, and I don't get it. I'm not, that doesn't come back to me at all.
no,
Like
there's no benefit there.
I'm handing it to the government,
You got it.
and then I just have to live with whatever I got left, and that's my life. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean? So, but those are the things that people just fundamentally are not aware of. In fact, because of this, I've actually volunteered at Score. I don't know if you heard of Score.
I have heard of Score. Yeah.
So I volunteered as a mentor at Score. So,
Great. Yeah.
so we
They need
worked
more
out.
people like you.
Yeah. So we worked that out. Like, I was at a meeting somewhere, and someone's like, "You need to be a mentor at Score," and I said, "Okay." So I went and I checked it out, And as soon as I talked to them, they were arms wide open. Like,
Oh yeah.
please come here,
Oh yeah.
help us coach all of these new entrepreneurs that are coming in.
Yeah.
And because they do get a lot of technical people that are coming in
Sure.
to try to build new apps or whatever.
Hmm.
And some of them just need a practical knowledge and understanding of what building an app really means.
Yeah.
And what
It's sort
comes
of a local first point of entry for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's free, and the great thing is they were okay with me having my Learn to Build a Business, which is the paid version of Score.
There you
It's like
go.
the
That's
same thing
right.
what Score does, but it's a paid version.
That's right.
Because that one's more like you're coaching. Like I'm
Yes.
more involved with the companies that I'm talking
Yes.
to, where Score is like you're mentoring and you kind of like leave them to go do it on their own. Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the biggest difference. So
Yeah, I love this concept. I think it's great. I think we need more of this out in the market. There's the market is flush with people who want to be entrepreneurs,
yeah,
and not everybody needs to be an entrepreneur. That first and foremost. And there's a lot of like hand holding that needs to be had on the front end with some people to say, hey, you're making good money with what you're doing right now. How about you not quit your job? Let's start on these first few steps. Let's get the ball rolling.
yeah,
And let's make a good financial decision, a good decision that, is good for your family and the company you're with and the company you're starting,
yep,
instead of jumping in with both feet and thinking you're going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg.
yeah,
It's just, there's a few, right?
yeah,
It's not the majority.
exactly.
So these conversations have to be had.
Well, even when I tell that story on the Learn to Build a Business platform, I say, look, I went cold turkey. I went crazy. I was like, I was a software engineer working at a startup, by the way, a fully funded startup. I was leading the team of about 20 to 30 engineers. We were building basically a social media, another Facebook competitor. We knocked it out in 6 months, a beta version. And throughout that whole time, the real reason why I went full cold turkey was because I have two daughters, and both of them had medical issues, but they exacerbated that year that I decided to go cold turkey. And what happened was I was spending, one of them had thyroid cancer, the other one was having violent seizures, and all of this stuff. So I'm making great money. Like I'm doing good. I'm living. Like I felt like I was on my dream job. I was working at a startup. I was an engineer. I was running the team. I was making 6 figures. I had insurance. But then all this stuff happened from the medical side, and the insurance wasn't able to cover the bills.
Yeah.
And I realized there is no way I can sustain all the medical stuff and everything. There's just no way I could sustain it. So that's when I was like, okay, I got to go out on my own. Thankfully, I have business skills, right? So I went out and I sold about $100,000 worth of work.
Yep.
And then I just went cold turkey. I literally went May 1st of 2015 was the time when I said, all right, instead of doing this on the side, I'm doing this full time. Yep. And I made that leap. And I had just bought a house. So I had a new mortgage, right? Again, these medical bills come in. So it was stressful. I would never, ever recommend to anyone to do that.
You know what's so funny is my story is very similar, and I always say the same thing. People say if someone wants to be an entrepreneur, or whatever, what advice would you give them? I'd say keep your job.
Yeah,
because it doesn't always work out. It is a lot of stress.
A lot,
and it doesn't matter if you're great; it's still going to be a lot of stress. So it works out for some people, and some people it doesn't. And you don't know if you're going to be that person.
Exactly. I mean, the funny thing is I would spend every day like looking at job listings while I'm, what I'm saying? You're sitting there like, okay, why did I do this?
Yes.
And then you're looking at job listings on one screen while you're working on the other going, you're trying to sell to a customer here while you're looking at jobs.
Yeah.
So that's what the whole first 6 months was like that. It was just crazy. And I have a picture of my office. I converted a walk-in closet in my house to an office.
Yeah.
And no AC, no vents. I'm sweating in that thing all day long. Oh gosh. And I'm sitting there going like, why did I do this? And I kept reminding myself, well, I can't pay the medical bills unless I do this.
That's right. So that's the real test. And, telling that story in the most, surreal way that you can tell it to these people that you meet with is probably the most benefit you can give them to say, let me tell you about that closet that I sweat in and wondered, what am I doing with my life when I have all these problems going on?
Yeah.
Are you willing to do that? If you're willing to do that, then this might be good for you. You might want to take the step. Let's talk. Let's keep talking.
Exactly.
If you're not, then you probably should take a slower road.
Exactly. And most people aren't, let's just face it. Like today's society, like most people can't handle that amount of pressure. Yep. I mean, everyone's being raised now to be more of like, they're not baby, because I wouldn't want to say that, because that would be kind of like talking down to even my employees. They're really good people. like it's just different.
Sure.
I don't want to sound bad. It's just different. Like
Well,
now,
everybody's more comfortable.
more comfort, far more
And if you're
comfortable now.
if you're
Like,
comfortable, you don't want to give up that comfort. As much as you might
yeah,
think you do, you don't.
yeah. And that's the difference. Like the difference is you got if you want to really make it, you got to learn to be uncomfortable
All the time.
99% of the
Yeah,
time.
all the time.
You know, I have funny enough, I have a video I posted the other day. I have access to a lounge over so at the Amway Center right here where the Orlando Magic play.
Yeah,
I have season tickets, but then sometimes I go to the Ultimate Lounge, which is down in the
yeah,
tunnel. It's where
yeah,
all the
cool.
people who have money or nice tickets they go there,
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
And everyone would think I go there to network or whatever. No, I have a picture of me literally sitting there. The game is already on. It
yeah,
emptied out, and I'm sitting there at a table, and I just took a photo of myself in the room
yeah.
with just the employees that work there. It's just me and the employees, and I'm like not talking to anybody. Like the room is empty.
Yes,
And I'm like sometimes this is all I need.
that's
I
right.
just need to sit in an empty room because you are under a lot of immense pressure all the time,
Yes,
and so
yes.
sometimes you just need that.
I totally can understand that.
Yeah,
It's a thing for sure. That's
absolutely.
amazing. Well, I want to get back to the AI conversation we had
Yeah,
before. I
absolutely.
know this is kind of a, not the same conversation, but
Yeah.
prior to us jumping on here, a great little. Okay. I apologize for the interruption, but I had to cut this here because where we're going with this AI conversation needed to be its own episode. So just go ahead and click to the next episode and you'll thank me later. Enjoy.